This video is going to be a look at how the Ravens defense really got worn down and almost really overwhelmed at times in the second half against the Browns. Kind of surprising to the extent that the Ravens were in control. You would think in the first half, even though the score ended up being closer at the halftime than we wanted it to be. And then the touchdown to OBJ, which I have loaded up here to show you in a moment, puts the Ravens up 24-7. But if you watch the gameplay in terms of how the Browns were blocking us and how Watson was able to escape, I'm going to show you selected plays from their first two drives of the second half. Look, they go 17 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. I think Coach Evans at Sip to Tally Films did a great video on that one. Check that one out if you haven't looked at it already. Second drive, 6 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. And then their game-winning drive with the field goal, 12 plays, 58 yards, field goal. All in total, 35 plays, 208 yards in the second half. We just got overwhelmed completely. If you watch the second half of us playing defense and you were to say these teams are going to play again next week, I'm picking the Browns. I hate to say that to you guys, and I know you don't like to hear that, and I don't really like to say it. But if you watch them block us, they look like they can block us, and they look like we can't block them. Nonetheless, there's a point in time in this game where OBJ is dancing in the end zone, and we're up 24-7, and we feel great. We feel like we have some margin to sit on. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. Another example of people are right to call it a collapse. This is the Browns' first possession coming out of the touchdown right there to OBJ, and this is an extremely disappointing play. It's a 3rd and 4. Marlon has played really well prior to the injury. He's up against Cooper here. Cooper's going to take his route to the inside. It's a great little concept that the Browns ran repeatedly, whereby the number one receiver to the boundary is going directly at, or in this case, underneath of the inside linebacker, Queen to that side, forcing him to make a decision. Marlon just gets too heavy in pursuit here, ends up over pursuing on this whip route or China out, whatever you want to call it. It's too easy there. A stop at that point in time gets us the football back, changes the dynamic of the game, and I think Marlon Humphrey's played fantastic since he came back. Yeah, he gave up the long touchdown pass to George Pickens late in that game. His coverage has been pretty damn near perfect in many other cases. He knows he messed up there. That's a huge missed opportunity for us when he has inside help, meaning I think we're playing man free here, and I think you've got a low hole dropper, help on the inside. Marlon has to know that he's got help in there. This is very disappointing and in some level almost perplexing for me that he was so heavy on that in cut there that he got beat on the China out. 1st and 10 from the 36 after that 5-yard gain. And this is kind of going to be an example of these guys, I hate to use the phrase wanted it more, but look at the blocking that they're getting. They are repeatedly getting the boundary side edge. This is no block at all on Kyle Van Noy initially. There's no pin down, nothing. He's just being influenced, touched by Njoku, and they're pulling 2 linemen out here. This is Van Noy trying to make the play instead of trying to condense the gap and force the running back to, maybe bounce it. But it looks like to me they've got blockers, so Van Noy is kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't in terms of what I'm describing. In any case, he goes upfield to try to make the tackle. I felt like in the second half there was times where we lost our discipline a little bit. That particular instance right there, Van Noy may have not had a good option, but it's a 6-yard gain on 1st and 10, and I think it's illustrative of how physical the Browns were at times with us. Additionally, we had trouble containing Watson. Now, this is the 2nd and 4 after that 6-yard run. Watson only gets 3 yards, creates a 3rd and 1. We did this repeatedly. Now, Owe is rushing from the top side, and the only reason he ends up so high is because the second lineman comes in and helps out, kind of knocks him further upfield. But we did this plenty of times on our own, to be honest with you, meaning get too far upfield, leave too much of a gap between the tackle that was pass proing us and the interior defensive lineman, and Watson was just able to scoot out the side door, if you will. 3rd and 1, I think you got a great play by Roquan and Broderick Washington. I think Broderick Washington just sheds Teller 77. It's a 3rd and 1. No gain. And give the Browns credit. After this no gain, I think they went immediate hurry up and did the tight end quarterback sneak with Harrison Bryant, who's seemingly been around forever there. Break the huddle, get up quick, It doesn't look like to me we're ready for this. I, it's easy to say this now with how the game ended, and it sounds overly negative. There's plays like this one where I just see the Browns giving more effort than we did. Now you can say, well, coach, they needed the win more than we did. That's true. We're winning at this point in time. I'm not sure how to justify or comprehend people justifying giving less effort than the visiting team in our own stadium. I don't think that meets the standard that we have for this team. That 4th and 1 conversion, 2 plays later, you got this 3rd and 11, another opportunity for us to, well, maybe not get off the field here because the Browns are probably going for it at this point. 4 minutes left or so in the third quarter. I'm really confused by this play. Hamilton appears to be going to pick Njoku to allow Owe to rush underneath. But then who's responsible for Njoku? I'm sure that on some level someone has talked about this in press conferences. I saw McDonald play this at Michigan. 2 deep, 4 under. It's a little rare, a little unusual, but we're just 2 deep at the second level. It is 3rd and 11. Our tackling did betray us at times. When do we tackle poorly as Ravens defense? I'm talking about the last 3-4 years. When we're not supported by other players. There's just not enough players here to support us on a leverage side, meaning an inside-out guy on the right hip of the ball carrier, Njoku the tight end, and an inside-out ball carrier on the left hip. We just don't have enough support with these guys, and unfortunately they end up getting the conversion. Gives them another first down. And I feel like this is the point where we're starting to lose control a little bit of Njoku to the boundary, similar to that concept I described earlier on the 3rd and 4 completion to Cooper. The number 1 receiver is going to just shield Hamilton enough to allow Njoku to get out into the flats. Easy completion on a first down for 9 yards. Yes, we're not doing a great job tackling here, but we're getting beat, in this case, to the field. I'm not sure why we're not being more physical with people. We're not switching things off at times. We're definitely in a man relationship down there to the bottom side, and Hamilton's beat because of the shield/pick. 2nd and 1. And this has been a complaint of mine with NFL defenses for a long time. We've got a corner in the face of Cooper. Look at the tight alignment that Cooper has. I'm not advocating that you should do this all the time, what I'm about to propose. Look at Van Noy's foot. His foot is about a yard to the inside in terms of a parallel line on the line of scrimmage to Cooper's. Well, they're pinning him down. It's the same play that we run. Pin, pull, pitch is all it is. And our edge defender gets out of there, and our corner gets sucked inside, which is a poor job by him. I'm saying to you, if we recognize that they're running this play, which this is the 3rd time they've run it this game, why don't we ever put the outside linebacker like inside leverage looking right at the number 1 receiver? You might say, well, coach, how do you get to the quarterback? Well, it's 2nd and 1. They are running the football. We have the benefit of knowing that now, and Kyle Van Noy and Rock Ya-Sin don't. What's the drawback? We let outside linebacker be physical with a wide receiver, not get pinned inside, actually create an edge, and then let the corner fill wherever he goes because we're assuming that Kyle Van Noy is going to win that matchup against the receiver. I'm not saying that you've got to do it all the time. It's an adjustment that I have rarely seen us run under Mike McDonald, or under Wink Martindale, and I've seen other teams do it, namely the New England Patriots. 3rd and 2, heavy personnel. Kareem Hunt gets in, 3-yard touchdown, 24-17 after I think a 2-point conversion. We're just not resetting the edge enough here at all, if you ask me. Getting driven out of there, Delshon Phillips. I'm not sure, he's an outside linebacker. Great effort by Pierce and I think Broderick Washington, but nonetheless, we can't hold him out of there. Give up. This is a huge drive. Like I said, I believe that Coach Evans did a review of it. You might want to check it out. My impression is that he went over every play. I feel like this was around the time that our defense got broken. Nonetheless, our offense gets stopped. We punt, and Prochet fumbles it. Somehow we're up 31-17, and then we get a sack by Matabike. And then 5 plays later, the Browns are in the end zone again, and it's 31-24. There's just too much space here, regardless of what the coverage is. There's just way too much space here for only being one vertical route. This is handled right here. We've got a corner and a safety, leaving too much space. It appears to be a shell / quarters coverage. Yeah, we don't want to get beat deep. We don't want to just jump things, but it seems incredibly disappointing to me that guys like Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Van Noy, and in this case Marcus Williams, are just Kyle Hamilton as well, are leaving receivers so much space. Hamilton got picked on that 9-yard catch by Njoku, but it seems incredibly disappointing to me that some of our high-level guys with a great pedigree and a great background were some of the guys who got beat. 2 plays later, 2nd and 7. This is Njoku for 23 yards. To me, this just looks like superior effort. I can't give you any technique that tells you want to. There is space created here by the routes, don't get me wrong. They've got a man release upside that's up to the top side that's carrying Brandon Stevens, a little outcut that's pulling Kyle Hamilton out of there, so they've really isolated Roquan Smith. And in this case, Njoku gets out of there, and we're not able to make the tackle, or we're not willing to. Huge gain, huge moment where the Browns were clearly surging, and just the more physical team with more left in the tank at this point. Sets them up for a 1st and 10 from the 29. This is a horrible call, in my opinion. Rock Ya-Sin, I mean, if that's what it takes if that's all it takes to push Cedric Tillman, who's a big physical wide receiver, out of bounds like that, I don't know how he's going to survive in this league. And I personally think he's very talented and very strong, and that he kind of sold this play. I don't think that there's very much contact here, but the ball does appear to be, more catchable than I thought in the reaction video. If they're going to call that, they're going to have to call pass interference 6-8 times a game, which sometimes they do. Watson gets out of here again. We're up the field. I feel like Clowney took a better angle there than we had earlier in the game in terms of getting upfield and creating a lane for him. To me, I like this angle that he's at better, forcing Watson to make a tougher decision. There's less space there. We've folded the defensive tackles over, and 75's hip has locked our D tackle inside, not able to get out to Watson. And this is a difficult situation for any inside linebacker. You're faced with, do I go to the quarterback and then leave the receiver open? Do I go to the receiver and let the quarterback scramble? Got to give Deshaun Watson credit, man. He was 14 for 14 at one point in the second half. This one got him to 31-24. The pick 6, where the ball bounces off 54's head for them, gets them 31-30. This is our last chance really to win the game, because I think our offense was overwhelmed to the point when we get the ball 31-30. Yeah, we did make one conversion to Zay Flowers, but I didn't get the impression that we had the ability or the drive and initiative to go down the field and score on that defense at that point. I felt like our defense had been to some extent broken, and our offense as well. And I know that you don't enjoy hearing that as a Ravens fan, but that's what I thought I saw live, and that's what I think I see now watching it on film. Oweh's sack here, 3 minutes left, is really our last chance to win the game. It's a brilliant job by him winning on the top side. Again, we get caught up inside, though. If, let's say, perhaps Oweh doesn't get there and we lose, I mean, we've created the same lane for the quarterback. We did not cage Watson well at all. This forced fumble is a tremendous missed opportunity. No one's fault. It's great effort by Oweh. Surely our guys are given as much effort as they can to get the football out of there. I think it's Wyatt Teller is able to fall on it, fortunately for the Browns. That's a moment there where we have a chance to win the game, and it's just another situation that we've seen in 2022, 2023, where we can look back and we can say how many times we almost won the game, how many times we almost ended up 9-2 or 10, whatever you want to call it, record-wise. You guys let me know what you think of how I broke down the plays, some of the plays that I picked in terms of the Browns really taking control and overwhelming our defense, which was surprising to watch and is still surprising to see on film, because we had been so good for so many games in a row defensively, minus one quarter against Arizona. Appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this content, this look back at when we kind of lost the initiative again for the second time and ended up turning a 2023 season that had so much promise into one that really resembles 2022 to me.